Prabhupada, always to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Today we're going to continue with our discussions on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and we'll begin with some kirtan. Nama Om Shankaraya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityamine Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityamine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sanyavadini Vastutyā Rishatarine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Sanyavadini Vastutyā Rishatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Shri Shankar Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Shankar Gaura Hari Hari Bol. So again, Hare Krishna everybody, and thank you so much for joining us this week. We are going to continue with our discussion that we began last week, which is Lord Chaitanya's explanation of the Atmaram verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll start with our invocation prayers. Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Bhishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Vairupakadamahyam Dadati Swapitam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pusharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachat Deshvadari. So we have been presenting these classes as an overview of, these classes from the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Prabhupada, which is based on the Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami. It's the biography of Lord Chaitanya, the most recent incarnation of Krishna in this age of Kali. I pray for all your blessings to do justice to our class today so that we can have a better idea of the teachings and the pastimes of the Lord. And in particular, like I said, this is the 15th chapter, and we're doing the second part. It's called The Explanation of the Atmaram verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's chant verse 18 of the first chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, glorification of the Lord and his devotees. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. And the translation is: Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda, glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. So, in this first part of this chapter 15, we had said that the Mayavadi philosophers, those that are in the impersonalist tradition, to try and become one with God, basically, they have to go through a lot of study, grammar, rhetoric, and so on, so that they can understand the Vedic scriptures in light of their theories of how to become one with God. So this is sorry about that. So this is not something that devotees of the Lord who are following the traditional bhakti yoga are advised to do. Rather, we engage in devotional service while our hearts trying to please Krishna as our sole motivation. And the understanding of what we need to realize from scripture will come to us. So what does this mean? Because we also know that Srila Prabhupada said that we should read his books. His books, especially his purports, which are his devotional ecstasies, are very dear to all Vaishnavas. So we must, of course, read Srila Prabhupada's books and read the Vedic scriptures that Srila Prabhupada has presented for us out of his mercy. But the understanding of all of these bodies of Vedic literature that Srila Prabhupada has given us, this comes through Krishna, and that is by devotional service, by us engaging in devotional service along with our reading. And we understand this from a very important verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is in Canto 1, Chapter 2. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Asuvairagya Jnanam Chayad Ahoitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So along with our reading, this is why it's so important that we engage in devotional service as well, and we get the understanding from what we're reading from the Lord within our heart, as long as we're engaging in devotional service also. So this is what makes us very different from those who just engage in the dry study of Vedic scriptures in order to for some other motivation, which of course, when it comes to Mayavadi philosophers, is to become one with God. We have no such motivation, and this is a very important part of our discussion today. And with this understanding, of course, we will be able to defend the scriptures if it ever comes up in even a formal way, like how Srila Baladeva Vibhushan was able to do so. And we'll be able to explain it as wonderfully as is necessary as well in our preaching. So in that regard, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had explained this verse in many extraordinary ways, when the great Mayavadi philosopher Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had exhausted himself on only 13 explanations of this verse. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as we remember from last week, gave 64 explanations. And compared to the Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's 30, based again in grammar and rhetoric and speculation, this were rather dry and somewhat disinteresting. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanations were nectarian. They were situated in devotional service. And so devotional service, like Krishna, being pleasing and unlimited, the Lord's explanations were pleasing. And certainly the Lord could have gone on in his explanations. Everything in the spiritual world is the same like devotional service. It's unlimited, full of pleasure. It's full of, it's eternal. It's full of knowledge. It's full of beauty. It's full of love for the Lord. Every act of devotional service is the same. All our knowledge and understanding also. And the material world is characterized by everything being limited, not full of knowledge, not enjoyable. And therefore, we see that time itself actually exists only in the material world and not in the spiritual world, for time has a limiting factor also. Now, with all of this, there's still only a handful of people, one out of millions, the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, who sees the material world for what it is and understands that the pleasure of this world is so temporary, that everything is governed by this factor of time and is limited. And so they start asking questions about what the real aim of life is. When these people start searching for something beyond the material world, this is when we say that they are on the path of transcendence, that they are transcendentalists, because they're looking for something beyond this world. They are transcending this world. So these transcendentalists of different types, they may be on the path of mystic yoga. They may be like the impersonalists. They may be taking the path of knowledge, jnana. They may be bhakti yogis, those who are trying to love the Lord, practicing in devotion. But either way, all of them have this common understanding that there is some pleasure that is greater than what the world can offer. Basically, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, all kinds of pleasures in this world will end up being poison, even if they seem like nectar at first. And sometimes they're even poison in the beginning, but the living entity is so bewildered, he or she sees it as nectar. And this is the problem. When the transcendentalist is able to escape all of this material suffering by becoming completely detached, whatever path they're on, they all have to come to a complete detachment from everything material in order to make progress towards that eternal happiness. And this is when they get to a stage of Brahmanda. And this stage is complete detachment from the material world. And when they're completely detached from the material world, they achieve this the state of such great happiness that it far surpasses anything, any kind of happiness that the material world can give. So people often say that they would be happy if they didn't have a care in the world. Everyone understands, even if they don't know what real happiness is, that it has something to do with being free of all the cares of this world. This is something that we hear from saying, to have no care in the world. This is the state of Brahmanda. The person in this state doesn't have any care in the world because they have no attachment for anything in the world. And this is something that all transcendentalists will come to, even those who are in Bhakti Yoga, because one in Bhakti Yoga also comes to the point of becoming completely detached from everything material. And Krishna says about the stage in Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Soshati na Kankshati. So these two things, no Soshati na Kankshati, no hankering and no lamentation. This is what the stage of Brahmanda actually means. This is what it means to have not a care in the world. When somebody doesn't want anything, and they're not sad about it. This is the ultimate happiness. Now, when these people are situated in this position, they are completely liberated. This is a stage of what liberation means. It means to be so free of everything in this material world that one is in a state of liberation from it. But even when someone gets to the stage, there's still something that will attract them. Great the happiness that they have not yet tasted. There is still this Atmaram verse is about. And we'll recap this verse. Sutta Vacha Atmarama Shamunayo Nirganta api urkrame kurvantiya haitukim bhaktim ittam bhuta gano harihi. And the translation of the Atmaram verse is, Sutta Goswami said, all different varieties of Atmarama, and in parenthesis means those who take pleasure in the Atma or spirit self, out of parenthesis, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore attracts everyone, including liberated souls. So these people at this level of Ramanda, with no desires, they develop spiritual desires to serve the Lord. These people can't be attracted to anything. They get spiritually attracted to the Lord. And then they're engaging in devotional service and they experience a transcendental happiness that's even higher than this level of Brahmanda, this happiness that they have already attained to. And that is because of Krishna's supreme attractiveness that can attract the minds of all people, all living beings actually across creation, material and spiritual. And that is the feature of this verse, that it draws us to this point of Krishna's supreme attractiveness. And if we think about it, that is the essence of Krishna's foremost name. Krishna means the all-attractive one, is what this verse is about. So in moving forward with the explanation, we're going to recap on the first line of this verse actually, and I'm going to, like we did last week, so that we can see it as well. And we discussed the first line proper, first and second lines, Atmarama Shamunayo Nirgranta Api Urakame. But I'm going to go up to these two words, Sutta Uvacha, for a little background on the verse. So Sutta Uvacha, you can see in the translation means Sutta Goswami said. So Sutta Goswami is a very highly elevated soul, a pure devotee, and a disciple of Srila Sukadev Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, who wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sukadev Goswami learned the Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Vyasadeva. So Sutta Goswami heard the Srimad Bhagavatam being spoken. And then sometime after he encountered an assembly of sages at Naimisharanya, this is a holy place in India. They had gathered there at the beginning of this age of Kali. So the sages had asked the great Sutta Goswami what was the best thing for the people who would be born into this age of Kali and subject to all the miseries of the age of Kali as well. And Sutta Goswami then spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam to them. The only way for the persons in the age of Kali to survive the darkness of this age, all the miseries that come with it. So the sages of Naimisharanya were very inquisitive to know how it was that Sukadev Goswami was interested in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. And why was this? Sukadev Goswami was already Brahman realized. He was already at the level of Brahmanda. He had come to this highest level of happiness that a transcendentalist can understand. This is someone, of course, who has not yet come to the level of devotional service. But aside from devotional service, the highest level of transcendental perfection that someone can reach is the level of Brahmanda, and such an extreme level of happiness and satisfaction. They couldn't understand why he had taken up any other study after that. So we can use an analogy in this regard. If one has a very accomplished professor, someone who has become a great authority in their subject and has achieved the zenith of all knowledge in that subject, all the accolades one could possibly get, and awards. What if that person then leaves that subject and goes to another one and starts from scratch to understand it and master it and then teach it to others? So this implies that that person has found a subject that is better than what they have been previously occupied in. And this is what happened with Rucha Goswami. Even though he had achieved this level of Brahmanda, he was attracted by hearing his father's teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam, particularly the pastimes of Krishna. And so he had learned the Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, even though he was already so accomplished in all Vedic study and understanding and achieved that which was the highest level that he could achieve in that way that he was occupied. And now he was teaching the Srimad Bhagavatam. And as an explanation of this, Sutta Goswami had spoken this verse to explain that such Atmaram, such transcendentalists like Sukadev Goswami, they, even though established on the path of self-realization and freed from all kinds of bondage, they still have a desire, a higher desire to render service unto Krishna, meaning that the Lord is so attractive to these souls as he is attractive to everyone else. So now we go on to the next, the third line of this verse. Starting with Kurvanti. So, Kurvanti means working for others. Srila Prabhupada says, there is another word similar to this, which is used when one's activities are done for one's personal sense gratification. But the word Kurvanti is used when activities are performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme. And thus, in this verse, the word can only indicate the rendering of transcendental service. So, why is this word specifically about working for Krishna, which is devotional service? Well, that lies in our definition of what one's sense gratification is. So Srila Prabhupada says that one can have personal sense gratification, but there's also the concept of extended sense gratification. So if one is acting in a way for personal sense gratification, they're doing things for themselves. But when they're acting in extended sense gratification, it appears that they're doing things for others, but they're actually also doing it for their sense gratification. So why is this so? If somebody does something for others, they usually get some happiness from doing that, some sense of satisfaction. There may be some other kind of remuneration in terms of recognition or praise, contact benefits in modern times, karmic benefits, good karma. But rarely, in fact, almost never, does anyone do anything without any kind of benefit. And so Prabhupada says that for personal sense gratification, the word is kurvate. But here we've got the word kurvanti. And for someone to be solely working for others, as this word kurvanti means, it must refer to devotional service. For it is only when one is engaged in devotional service to Krishna that one is engaged entirely for somebody else's benefit or someone else's pleasure. And that is Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And that is what kurvanti means. So we'll go to the next word, which is ahoituki. But we're going to understand this word through its root. In Sanskrit, we have words that are formed from a root word. So after kurvanti, we have ahoitukim. The root of ahoitukim is the word hetu. So in Sanskrit, you have a root word and you have letters added before it and after it to make the form of the word that you want to use in a sentence or in a particular context. So hetu has become ahoitukim in this verse. Let's see what Lord Chaitanya says here about hetu. The word hetu means reason or cause. Generally, people are engaged in transcendental activities for three reasons. Some want material happiness, some want mystic perfection, and some want liberation from material bondage. As far as material enjoyment is concerned, there are so many varieties that no one can enumerate them. As far as perfections in mystic power are concerned, there are 18. And as far as types of liberation from material bondage are concerned, there are 5. The state of being where all these varieties of enjoyment are conspicuous by their absence is called a hoitaki. The hoitaki qualification is especially mentioned because by the ahoitaki service of the Lord, one can achieve the favor of the Lord. So the translation here of ahoitakim in this verse is given as unalloyed. So unalloyed is an English word that means nothing is mixed in it, in the substance. And that implies that it's pure. If we go to the root of unalloyed, there's a word called alloy, right? And alloy means there's a mix. So in the same way that unalloyed is the opposite to its root word alloy, unalloyed meaning nothing mixed in it, and alloy meaning a mixture. So we have ahoitaki, which is the opposite of its root word. Ahoitaki means causeless, not having a cause and not having a reason. Like we know, Bhakti is called in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.13, ahoitaki apratihata, it's causeless, right? So here too has a cause. Here too means that there's a cause to something. And that is what we don't want in Bhakti. In Bhakti, we want that it doesn't have a cause. Paragraph. It may be because the material happiness which is unlimited. There's so many things that people want, from riches to nice properties and cars and fame and beauty and perfections. So
Hare Krishna, sound check. Sorry, we lost Mataji. She'll be back very soon. Hare Krishna, sound check. Mataji, are you there? God Bhaktan Kural Paul, welcome. Welcome, Damodar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, please my humble obeisances, all glory.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Vilashni Radha Mataji. Aditi Mataji, welcome. Is everything okay? Is everything getting absorbed in the meantime? Raja Shikhar Prabhu, are you there?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, how are you?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So nice to be supporting us. I think the Mataji has a internet connection problem.
Yeah, it sounded it went off a little bit there before we lost it.
It was freezing a bit there.
Yeah.
But she should join. And welcome to Damodar Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhu, are you there?
Haribo, yes, I'm here, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amalji is back. Hare Krishna Maji, welcome. Sound check, Gaura Premi Mataji, are you back?
Okay. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Apologies for that. I had a problem with the Wi-Fi. It just went dead all of a sudden. Okay. Where was I last audible from, Prabhu? About Hetu, isn't it? The explanation of what Hetu is. We were saying that like the word unalloyed has a root that is the opposite meaning of unalloyed. So alloy is the opposite of unalloyed. So the root of ahoitaki, which is hetu, this word is the opposite. So whereas ahoitaki is causeless devotional, and referring in this case a devotional service that has no cause or no reason to be performing devotional service, hetu means a cause or a reason. So this can be of many types, many reasons why people take to transcendental activities. When it comes to material desires, those are unlimited. It could be for anything from riches to properties, fame, beauty, and so on. And when it comes to mystic perfections, there are 18 in number. So of these 18, Srila Prabhupada mentions the principal 8, but there is also a secondary 10 mystic perfections that people can aspire for on a path of transcendence. And when it comes to liberation, there's 5. So of them, becoming one with God or attempting to become one with God is 1. And then one can also live on the same planet as the Lord. One can have the same appearance as the Lord. One can have opulence like the Lord. One can always be in the Lord's association, like his personal assistants. So those are the 5 types of liberation. So if one is motivated by any of these things, any material happiness, any mystic perfections, or any kind of liberation, then one's devotional service is not, or one's attempts on the path of transcendence are not causeless. But when it comes to bhakti yoga, we are aiming for causeless devotion, because that is the way that we can attract the Supreme Lord as much as we are attracted by his devotional service. It is only through rendering service to him where we have no motivation whatsoever. And that's the meaning of this word, ahoit. Then we see the next word to follow is bhakti. I'll just go to the verse again. 9.3 Kurvanti ahoit kim bhakti. And of course, bhakti is translated as devotional service. So Lord Chaitanya tells us that bhakti can be used in 10 different ways. One of these is sadhana bhakti, or occupational devotional service. We have also defined this in our previous classes as bhakti according to rules and regulations. But there are 9 others, which are varieties of prema bhakti. Those who are situated in the neutral position attain perfection up to the love of God. That's prema bhakti. Similarly, those who are situated in the relationship of master and servant attain love of God to the stage of attachment. Those who are related in friendship attain love of God to the point of fraternity. Those who are in love of God with his parents are elevated to the point of transcendental emotion. But only those who are related with the Supreme in conjugal love can experience the highest of ecstasies. These are some of the different meanings for the word bhakti. This needs a bit of explanation. So we had said that broadly bhakti can be divided into sadhana bhakti, which is bhakti according to rules and regulations, and raganuga bhakti. So here raganuga bhakti is given as prema bhakti. So that's the highest level of bhakti that one can reach from, and that's level of shraddha to prema. But we had also said in our previous classes that prema bhakti has 9 different levels. So what we're doing now is we're separating the sadhana bhakti from the 9 levels, and we're saying there's actually 10 different types of bhakti. So according to whatever relationship a devotee has with Krishna, they can progress to this level of prema bhakti and then even go beyond it to any of those 9 levels. So for example, someone who is at the level of neutrality or shantara, that person gets as far as prema bhakti. Someone in Shantaras doesn't go beyond in any of those 9 levels. But those who are at Dasyaras, they go to the next level of Prema Bhakti, beyond Prema Bhakti, and that level is called Rati. And that's different from the Rati we had described that comes before Prema. This is the Rati that comes after Prema. And those who are situated in the level of friendship, they go further than Rati. Those are situated in the level of parental love for Krishna go even further. And the gopis go to the highest level, levels 8 and 9, which are Bhava and Mahabhava. And again, this Bhava is different from the Bhava that comes before Prema. This is a different definition of Bhava. And Sri Radha herself, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Madhavendra Puri get to the highest level of Mahabhava. Right? That is the 9th level in Prema Bhakti. So these are the 10 different descriptions of Bhakti according to Lord Chaitanya. These all depend on the relationship that one has with Krishna, the relationship by which one expresses their attraction to Krishna, and Krishna's attraction is displayed to them. The Lord next explained the different means of Itam Bhuta Guna. So that is the last line. Itam Bhuta Guna Harihi. So this those three hyphenated words are taken as one. Itam Bhuta Guna. Itam Bhuta indicates full transcendental pleasure, before which even the transcendental pleasure known as Brahmanda becomes like straw. We've discussed Brahmanda in bit of detail earlier on. In the Hari Bhakti Sudadaya 1436, a devotee says, "My Lord, O Supreme, simply by understanding you or seeing you, we derive a pleasure so great that the pleasure of Brahmanda or Brahmananda becomes insignificant." In other words, the pleasure derived by understanding Krishna as he is, as the all-attractive reservoir of all pleasures and the reservoir of all pleasure-giving tastes with all transcendental qualifications, attracts one to become his devotee. By virtue of such attraction, one can give up fruitive activities and all endeavors for liberation, and can even abandon the intense desire to achieve mystic power through success in yoga. The attractive power of Krishna is so intense that one loses respect for all other means of self-realization and simply surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this word now, guna, is explained separately. Here it's given as qualities. We may remember hearing it in terms of the qualities of the living beings in this material world: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is explaining it in terms of the qualities of Krishna. In the Atmaram verse, guna indicates the unlimited transcendental qualities of Krishna, primarily those pertaining to his Satchit Ananda form. In his transcendental, blissful knowledge and eternity, he is fully perfect, and his perfection is increased when he is controlled by the attention of his devotee. God is so kind and merciful that he gives himself in exchange for the devotional service of the devotee. His transcendental qualities are such that his perfect beauty, his perfect reciprocation of love between himself and his devotees, and the fragrance of his transcendental qualities attract different kinds of transcendentalists and liberated souls. For example, Krishna attracted the mind of Sanaka and the other Kumaras simply by the aroma emanating from the flowers offered to him, and he attracted the mind of Shukadev Goswami by his transcendental pastime. The minds of the damsels of Vrindavan were attracted by his personal beauty. Rukmini's attention was attracted by his bodily features and transcendental qualities, and the mind of the goddess of fortune was attracted by his flute playing and other transcendental features. In this way, Lord Krishna attracts the minds of all young girls. He also attracts the minds of elderly ladies by his childlike activities, and the minds of his friends by his friendly activities. When he appeared in Vrindavan, he even attracted the birds, beasts, trees, and plants. Indeed, everyone became attracted in love and affection for Krishna. So we are now going to that point that we were making just now, that Krishna's attractiveness to us increases in whatever relationship that we're in. So whichever of the 5 relationships that we are, Asanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatalya, Madhurya, whether we are in the neutral relationship, the relationship of servitude, friendship, parental relationship, the relationship of conjugal love, we are attracted to Krishna's particular qualities in this relationship. And through our attractiveness to those qualities, our love for Krishna grows. And in reciprocation, Krishna's attractiveness to us increases with that love, and then our love increases even more. So this is something that's not very easy for us to explain or understand because we're firmly on the material platform. But in a few chapters back of teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Srila Prabhupada had given us the example that when Krishna's beauty, when the gopis are exposed to Krishna's beauty, their love for him increases so much. And in response to the gopis' love for him, Krishna's beauty increases, and then their love grows even more with that greater beauty and so on. And this is that never-ending pleasure of having a relationship with Krishna. So this is what happens, whichever level of prema one may be, but they're attracted to qualities of Krishna, and so one's love is growing in that way, and Krishna's qualities that are attracting us in that relationship are also growing in response. Well, this is the cycle of happiness, attraction, and pleasure that goes on in the spiritual world. And then the last word is the name of Krishna, Harihi, right? Itam Bhutta Guno Harihi. And here it is the direct translation is given of the Lord, and Lord Chaitanya is giving us two important meanings. The word Hari has different meanings, of which two are principal. The name Hari indicates that Krishna takes away all inauspicious things from the devotee's life, and that he attracts the mind of the devotee by awarding him transcendental love of God. Krishna is so attractive that anyone who can somehow or other remember him becomes freed from the four kinds of material miseries. The Lord gives special attention to his devotees and banishes the devotees various sinful activities which are stumbling blocks for the advancement of devotional service. This is called rooting the influence of ignorance. So, this name Hari is a very special name, and both meanings that Lord Chaitanya is giving us are helping us understand the attractiveness of Krishna. The first meaning, which says the Lord takes away all inauspicious things from the devotee's life, means that the devotee loses the attractiveness to all these inauspicious things. And the second meaning, which says that he attracts the mind of the devotee, means that along with the devotee losing the attractiveness to material things, he becomes attracted to Krishna. These are how these two meanings are related. So in terms of how the devotee loses attractiveness to inauspicious things, Krishna shows us through different ways that the material energy is a disturbance, a hindrance to our spiritual life. And we learn this through hearing from authorities, through reading scriptures, through examples in our personal life. But if still the devotee needs more assistance in becoming convinced that material things are an obstacle, then Krishna may utilize the devotee's personal reactions, simple reactions, in order to give them what seems like suffering, so that the devotee can understand that, look, material life is bad news and I should be focusing on spiritual life and so on. So this particular quality is usually manipulated by the materialists, and so they take this name of Hari to mean that the Lord takes away everything material, of course, what they mean. And they think that those who are devotees of Krishna generally suffer. This is the misconception of those who hear this name Hari. They say, think of it as he who takes away everything. They don't understand that the Lord is trying to show the devotee through the devotee's own reaction. The Lord is not going to cause suffering to his devotee intentionally of his own accord. But if a devotee has some sinful reactions still to come, the Lord utilizes this in a personal way, not the way someone who's not a devotee may just get sinful reactions through material energy. A devotee's sinful reactions are tailored, we could say, in a way that the Lord makes the devotee understand that the material attachments are only the cause of suffering, and makes the devotee more serious about devotional service, makes the devotee make more advancement in devotional service. And it is always that these reactions, Srila Prabhupada explains in Srimad Bhagavatam, are less than what the devotee should have had if they weren't serving Krishna. So actually, this is to the devotee's benefit. Krishna will never make his devotees suffer more than they should. It's always less. And rather, on the other hand, the materialists, they still lose everything in the end. Whatever they have, everybody actually still loses everything. And at the end, everyone is reborn into new life, basically starting from zero, at the mercy of the material nature. however it is that their karma is going to play out, with no guarantee even of getting out of the cycle of birth and death. So certainly taking the shelter of Hari is a much better bargain than being open to material nature and all the suffering that one has brought upon oneself. Then we come to the second explanation of the Lord's verse name, which is about our attraction to Him. Simply by hearing about Him, one develops love for Him. That is the gift of the Lord. On one side, He takes away inauspicious things, decreases our attachment for material things. And on the other side, He awards the most auspicious things. He grants us attachment and attraction to Him. That is the meaning of Hari. When a person is developed in love of Godhead, his body, mind, and everything else are attracted by the transcendental qualities of the Lord. Such is the power of Krishna's merciful activities and transcendental qualities. So now we are understanding that we lose attraction for material things and we gain attraction to Krishna. And the foremost way that we get attracted to Krishna is by hearing. This is most wonderfully demonstrated by Srila Prabhupada, how he traveled across the world attracting so many devotees to Krishna's lotus feet by hearing. In contrast, if we think about when people were able to see Krishna personally 5,000 years ago, not everyone became his devotee. In fact, many people were more envious of Krishna by seeing him, and they actually became very inimical, they were very demoniac. So this shows that this process of hearing is so powerful in increasing our attraction to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada compares it in an analogy to the use of IV drugs. So if we wanted to cure somebody of an overwhelming infection that was threatening them, immediately one would insert a drip and put in the drugs through the vein directly, so that drugs, of course, we mean legal drugs, antibiotics. We would want those antibiotics to reach the body faster, so we put it through a drip. And in the same way, in order for us to inject Krishna into our hearts, the ear is the most powerful way to do that. If we use another analogy, we're all in the cloud of this Mahatattva, this material consciousness. And if one is within a cloud, so one example would be at the top of a mountain. This is where clouds are encountered that one can actually be in the middle of, or even a fog. Seeing things is not going to help because a cloud would block one's vision. But one can still reach a person through shouting to them, calling to them. They could still hear one even in a cloud. So in the same way, even though we're in this cloud of the Mahatattva, we can still hear the transcendental sound. That could still reach us from the spiritual world. And this is the importance of us hearing and becoming attracted to Krishna in this way. He is so attractive that out of transcendental attachment to him, a devotee will give up all four principles of material success: religiosity, economic development, regulated sense gratification, and salvation. So we explained before that these are the four pillars that drive people: dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So throughout this world, throughout this universe, everybody's being driven by these four things. But as soon as one becomes attracted to Krishna, one is engaging everything in devotional service, and one is not being driven by any kind of personal gratification through any of these four ways. And then we come to the last comment on the meanings of these words. Those are api and cha. So we can see in the verse where these words come in. Okay, so cha is in the first line of the verse, Atmaram Sha, and api is in the second line, Nirganta api urukrame. So here in the verse, api has been given the translation of in spite of, and cha has been translated as also. But Lord Chaitanya gives us some more definitions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila chapter 26, which is actually where this explanation is given. We're reading from text 65 to 69. This is Lord Chaitanya speaking. When the conjunctions cha and api, although, are added to this verse, the verse can assume whatever meaning one wants to give it. The word cha can be explained in 7 ways. The word cha is used, which is given as and in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the word cha is used to connect a word or sentence with a previous word or sentence, to give the sense of exaggeration, to assist the meaning, give a collective understanding, to suggest another effort or exertion, or to fulfill the meter of a verse. It is also used in the sense of certainty. Then the Lord says, there are 7 chief meanings of the word api. They are as follows. The word api is used in the sense of possibility, question, doubt, censure, aggregation, appropriate application of things, and extravagance. So the Lord is quoting here from a Sanskrit dictionary called the Vishwa Prakash in these explanations, even though he actually doesn't need any dictionary. But even so, they're probably going to be demons who are going to question all his explanations, and so he clarifies it this way. So we can appreciate how the usage of these 2 words can actually transform this verse so many times over with all the meanings that the Lord has been giving us. So we're going to stop here because like last week, we said there's been quite a lot of explanations. And we're going to continue next week with the 3rd and the final part of Lord Chaitanya's explanations on this very wonderful Atmaram verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. So please join us then. Shri Shantai, Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions or any comments or clarifications? Apologies again, it was quite a lot
Hare
to
Krishna,
take in.
Mataji. Thank you for wonderful
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the service.
Pranams. I want to ask you if it's
Sure.
different between Santya Loka and Brahma Loka, because in some points is Brahma Loka the topmost planet from this universe, and in another point is Santya Loka, which is the difference.
Okay, so Satya Loka is always referring to a planet of this world, and that is Brahma's planet, and that is described as the highest. Now, sometimes Brahma Loka is referring to Brahma's planet, but also sometimes it may be referring to the planet of Brahman, which is, of course, referring to a spiritual planet which is higher than the material world. This is what I read in Srimad Bhagavatam the other day. So we can always take Satya Loka to mean Brahma's planet. But when it comes to, when we hear the word Brahma Loka, we have to look in the context to see whether it's referring to a Vaikuntha planet or whether it's referring to Brahma's planet, because it could be either. Is that okay?
Yes, Mataji, thank you very much. That means that the impersonalist Brahmajyotis can reach Santya Loka.
Sorry?
The impersonalist
Yes.
can reach Brahmajyoti, can reach Santya Loka.
So they from actually the impersonalists, those who don't go directly to Brahma Loka, to the impersonal Brahman at the time of death, they sometimes have to go via Satya Loka. So depending on what they have done before they got to Satya Loka, that is in their previous life, they may be qualified at the end of their life to Satya Loka to get to Brahman. So it is possible for them to go directly from this life, or they go via Satya Loka to Brahman. It all depends on what they've done, like how much of credit they've actually earned in order to achieve Brahman. Is
Yes,
that okay?
thank you very much. Yes, Danava Pranam, Hari Bol.
Thank you, Master. Hare Krishna. Are there any other questions? Anything else I should clarify? Or try to clarify? I must apologize. I have very limited understanding of all of this as well. It's the mercy of Guru and Goranga that we're trying to get into these very deep topics. If there are no other questions, then we will go into our bhajan for today. So last Sunday was the appearance day of Srila Narottam Das Thakur, and this coming Saturday is the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur. So they have many similarities. Both of them are coming, of course, in the line of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. They're both extraordinary spiritual masters, both hailing from Bengal. But also what's very significant when we think about it is that they both united the Vaishnav world under teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at different points in history. So this is very necessary because even though the Lord's message is ever fresh and never deteriorates, but because of the quality of Kali Yuga and the quality of people in Kali Yuga, like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the teachings sometimes appear to be lost. So the Lord revives it, or he sends his sons or his associates, his beloved devotees to revive it. So Narottam Das Thakur did this, especially through his historic festival at Keturi, where he brought all the Vaishnavas at the time together and united them under one unified banner of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. He established deities and beautiful temples in Keturi. So Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, he came as a response to a prayer of his father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who was praying for a ray of Vishnu to help him to spread Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings that, like the same, had almost been lost by the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he was single-handedly reviving it. And so Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur was his prayer answered in his form, because he revived Vaishnavism like never before. He established for Gaudiya Math thousands and thousands of devotees traveling throughout India and preaching, and foremost amongst them, of course, our beloved Srila Prabhupada. So by the efforts of Srila Narottam Das Thakur and Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message was preserved. Srila Prabhupada spread it to us, and so we're so grateful to the both of them. So we're going to honor them with a very well-known prayer to the spiritual master, Shri Guru Charana Padma. This prayer was written by Srila Narottam Das Thakur for his spiritual master, Srila Lokanath Goswami. And so we have we usually only sing the first 4 verses. So we have in the second line of the 4th verse, Lokanath Lokera Jivana. This is in honor of Lokanath Goswami. So we pray that both Narottam Das Thakur and Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur will be so merciful to us and help us to understand Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings with love. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sarna Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sarna Vandamoi Savadana Mate Vandamoi Savadana Mate Yahara Prasade Bahar E Bhavaturiya Yahar Yahara Prasade Bhai Bhavatoriya Krishna Prati Hoya Hoite Krishna Prati Hoya Hoite Guru Kapala Bhatya Chite se Toriya Adya Guru Kapala Bhatya Chite se Toriya Adya Aruna Kuri O Mane Asha Aruna Kuri O Mane Asha Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati Ye Pashade Pure Sarva Asha Pashade Pure Sarva सच्चिदान दिलये जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान विदे बख्शीतो दिव्य ज्ञान विदे बख्शीतो प्रेम भक्ति यहाँ होते अविद्या विनश्यते प्रेम भक्ति यहाँ होते अविद्या विनश्यते तेरे गाए हर चरितो तेरे गाए हर चरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम चंद्र बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम चंद्र बंधु लोकना लोकेरा जीवन लोकना लोकेरा जीवाना प्रभु तोरा दोया देहु मोरे पाद छाया प्रभु कर दोया देहु मोरे पाद छाया बजाज पुष्प भुवाना बजाज पुष्प भुवाना शीला प्रभुपाद पति तपवाना शीला प्रभुपाद पति तपवाना जय प्रभुपादा 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 गुरुदेव 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 जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव श्री दास ठाकुर की जय श्री भक्तिवेदांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय गौतम वंदे हरि हरि बोल. So read the translation of the first 4 verses. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and attain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates, and by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Lokanath Goswami, O master, be merciful unto me. Give me the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the 3 worlds. So thank you all again so much for your kind attention, and please join us next week. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, everyone.